Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. He who fights with monsters should be careful, lest he thereby become a monster. And if you gaze into an abyss, the abyss gazes also into you. This is a quote by Friedrich Nietzsche. The series starts with the library, and a lot of books being read by a man named Lee Sin-hyuk. Another man is asking him how long he's been in here. Sin-hyuk says 180 months, so exactly 15 years. The guy asks if it's been that long already, saying it's time. Sin-hyuk asks what he means. He starts to get a throbbing sensation in his head, as he hears the words wake, eyes, and psych, and his name. He begins to break out in a cold sweat. The man asks if he hears that sound. Sin-hyuk asks what this is, as it sounds like a person, and it's shaking the entire library. The man asks if he remembers. 15 years ago, when he first arrived here, he was still just a little boy, but the look in his eyes was full of desperation. And he dropped to his knees, crying, and he came to him, saying that he wanted to find the answer. From that day on, he studied like his life depended on it. He studied almost every subject, criminology, psychology, physics, physiology, chemistry, anything you could think of. And the man asks if he's found the answer he's been looking for in here. Sin-hyuk wonders what answer he's talking about, and the man then says they should shake hands. Sin-hyuk looks down at it, as he and Colonel Sanders shake hands, and Colonel Sanders tells him it's warm, and that he'll be faced with a version of himself that has turned into a monster along his journey to find the answer. He might even lose his way in the middle, but he should not forget there is warmth flowing in his hands just like this. He then starts to feel a weird sensation, and Colonel Sanders tells him to open his eyes now. And the old man tells him that the answer he's been looking for is not here, so he needs to go out into the world, and search for the real answer. He starts to get an electric current surging through his body, and he hears somebody asking if they can hear him. They check his vitals, and they say his breathing and heart rate are returning to normal, and they tell somebody named Dr. Yang to go get Professor Kim. What Sin-hyuk sees is a man bleeding profusely, telling him to please open his eyes. He then jolts awake, and we see that he's actually but a boy, as he's panting in bed, breaking out in a cold sweat. The doctor and nurses are surprised, asking if he knows where they are. Sin-hyuk looks around, and starts to get a headache, and, when he looks down, he sees the ivy in his arm, wondering why he sees a child's hand. When he sees his reflection as well, he wonders why he's a kid, when he has been an adult for a long time already, just before he was with the doctor studying for 15 years. He then recalls the bloodied face, and starts to have a panic attack, wondering which one is reality, and which one is the dream. We hear Professor Kim asking if he's finally awake, and they look over. As Professor Kim is reaching into his coat pocket, he pulls out a flashlight, showing that his pupils are reacting to the light, and he says that he really is awake, asking if he's feeling dizzy or nauseous. Sin-hyuk says that he's alright, but more than that, wondering how long he's been in this hospital. Dr. Yang and Kim sit there for a second, before they look at each other, saying that it's been a little over a month. Sin-hyuk says that he's been in a coma for a month, but, based on the fact that he doesn't have an oxygen mask, it means his body was working normally. The doctors are surprised by him picking up on this, saying that it seems like he's interested in medicine. Sin-hyuk doesn't know how to explain it, saying that he is, but he can't tell them that he learned medicine in his dreams, saying that he is interested in it. Professor Kim is excited, saying that he must be curious about the state he was in while he was sleeping. Sin-hyuk says he is, and he says that it's a new case for him, so he's also curious, but he should listen to what he has to say first. While he was in a coma, they observed a similar brain pattern for a month. However, the overall trend changed bit by bit. For the first 10 days, the theta waves and FM theta waves showed up interchangeably, and for the next 10 days, it was mostly beta waves with a bit of theta mixed into it. In the last 10 days, it settled down, and alpha waves showed up. He wants to know if Sin-hyuk understands what this means. Sin-hyuk says that the FM theta waves on the first 10 days are brain waves that occur when a child imagines and creates. The beta waves of the next 10 days would occur when a teenager is solving problems and doing critical thinking, and the alpha waves of the last 10 days would occur when adults teach what they've learned and increase the efficiency. Sin-hyuk then realizes what this means, as the last 15 years he spent studying inside that library with the doctor was all within his brain. His brain waves reflected that his body was actually growing into that of an adult, so 1 month was 15 years for him. Professor Kim starts to laugh excitedly, and says that's amazing, asking how a kid can know so much. Dr. Yang tells him to calm down, and Kim says that he got too excited. Sin Hyuk heads to the bathroom, and washes his face, saying that he remembers now how he got into a coma. It was a snowy night, and we see him beaten to a pulp, as somebody is grabbing onto his shirt, saying to follow him. Sin Hyuk tells him they shouldn't drive when he's drunk, and we learn it's his father. His father asks who he thinks he's lecturing, and to get in. As they are driving away, Sin Hyuk tells him the road is slippery, and he should drive slowly, but his father tells him to shut the hell up, and that he should go to the police station, and tell them that that son of a bitch killed his mother, asking if he understands. Sin Hyuk then spots something in front of the car, telling him to slow down, as there's a man crossing the street. His father swerves to avoid him, and, when he does, his tires are unable to stop, and they end up jumping off of some stairs, bouncing all the way down them left and right, until they finally come colliding head first straight into the snow. The impact of them hitting it was hella severe, as all that's heard is a loud crash. From this angle, I can't tell if it was the snow, or another truck, but, oh well, we see blood all in the car, and broken glass. Because his father's head is straight into the dashboard, we see him motionless, his blood is pouring out of his head, eyes, and nose. Sin Hyuk says, as a result of that car crash, his father passed away, and he wonders if the memories from when he was in a coma are just a dream, but his adult self, and everything that he learned there, are so vivid in his mind. He then hears somebody in the bathroom, saying that he's depressed as hell, and the doctors are telling him stuff like his amygdala is small, and his heart rate is low, but they're trying to rip him off, and earn money by giving him all these tests. It's just a small car accident, and this is over the top. As he's been here for 3 days. He says that he's going to go home today, regardless of how much he has to pay, and he's on the phone telling somebody that he has a favor. He's in a bit of a pickle, and unable to go immediately back to his house, so he needs them to go bring him his stuff. He tells them that he'll treat them to something nice, but Sin Hyuk is just listening to his symptoms. His amygdala is small, and his heart rate is low, and he's being controlling. He remembers the doctor telling him how the amygdala oversees the ability to be empathetic, and feel guilt. In other words, it's a part of the brain that processes emotion. So what does it mean when it's small? Sin Hyuk says it means there's a possibility that the person would be lacking in terms of emotion compared to a regular person. The doctor then asks about the heart rate being low, and Sin Hyuk says that means they might not be able to feel fear, and, in that case, they might struggle with the boredom of life. Because of that, they might seek strong stimulation. The doctor says that's correct, stimulation that would get the heart pumping, none other than murder. The door slowly opens, and Sin Hyuk waits to see who exits, as we see a man with a cigarette in his mouth staring at him. The guy seems to recognize Sin Hyuk, asking if he's allowed to walk around already. He then says that he probably doesn't recognize him, but they are in the same hospital room, and that he's quite famous right now, because he woke up from a coma after a month. Sin Hyuk, though, seems to be thinking about something, and points out that his hand is injured. The guy looks down at his bandaged finger, saying if he's talking about this, and he starts glancing around, trying to find some kind of an excuse, before he tells him that he got cut by a knife, but it's nothing. That smile was evil. Sin Hyuk tells him he hopes he gets better soon, and the guy pats his head, saying congratulations on waking up, and he wanted to give him a cigarette as a gift, but this is the last one he has. He then flicks it into the bin, and Sin Hyuk's still just lost in thought. The guy says that he'll see him later, and closes the door. Sin Hyuk wants to figure out more about this guy, and walks over to one of the nurses, calling out to her. She responds to him, and he says he wants to use the internet, asking if he can borrow her phone. She says of course, he must be curious about how much the world's changed. He says that he is, and, as he starts browsing it, he's surprised, because he sees that there was a random murder targeting a woman, and how the victim is currently under treatment at a nearby hospital, and, if the cut was an inch deeper, she'd have died, and it was 3 days ago. Sin Hyuk starts thinking about the scene in his head. He's vividly imagining the woman walking, and, when she turns to the sound of somebody running, she gets stabbed from the side. Sin Hyuk says that it was by a left-handed person, based on where the injury was, and the guy who said he got cut by a knife was also left-handed, and how he's been in the hospital for 3 days. Sin Hyuk says, if he bases it on the things he learned in his dream, the chances of that man having committed murder, or attempted murder, are around 99%. He thanks her for letting him borrow her phone, and she says to just let her know when he wants it again. Sin Hyuk wonders if the things he learned in his dream will work in real life. He looks at a phone booth, saying that, since there's around a 1% chance, he needs to figure it out himself, as he actually took the guy's cigarette, and bagged it for DNA evidence. As he picks up the payphone, he wonders why the hell he feels like smiling, and he starts dialing the police. It jumps to the police station, as somebody is getting scolded for their performance. The man asks if he's not embarrassed, as a person who got in later is going to get a promotion before him, and he's just going to sit here, and let it happen. The dude obviously doesn't look happy with himself, and Fat Ass just tells him to look at how bad he's done. He wonders if he wanted to become a detective just to hang around, as he throws his papers at him. He says if he doesn't increase his performance scores this time, he can't cover for him anymore, and that he truly means it. The detective doesn't say anything, but he sighs, and goes back to his cubicle, and takes a seat, putting his hands on his head, saying this shit is frustrating. His phone starts ringing, and he says that he's really stressed out. He then answers it, saying this is the detective division. We hear Sin Hyuk asking about an attempted murder against a woman 3 days ago. The detective is just confused why he's asking the question, and Sin Hyuk says the culprit is named Jo Young-hoon in room 1407 of Daein University Hospital. The detective asks who he is, and Sin Hyuk says he tried to fake his voice and accent to sound more mature, but he'll probably think he's a student going through puberty at most, and no police officer will take action after hearing this, so he'll likely increase his credibility by revealing information that only parties involved with the case are meant to know. The detective asks if he's going to answer, and Sin Hyuk asks about the blood stain on the victim's clothes. The detective is surprised, and Sin Hyuk says he slipped while stabbing the victim, and his blood got on her clothes, and there's a wound on the culprit's left index finger. It is highly likely that the culprit committed similar crimes in the same region before this. The cases before were just practice, but from now on, it's going to develop into some serious murder unless apprehended. The detective is speechless, and Sin Hyuk says that since he's not hanging up, he doesn't think this is a prank call at least, and now he's going to throw an important piece of information that will hook him up. The detective goes to say something, but Sin Hyuk cuts him off, saying that he has the cigarette that the culprit was smoking. The detective is shocked, and Sin Hyuk tells him that he can be certain about the evidence after comparing the DNA with that of the blood that got on the victim's clothes, and he's giving him a reason that he has to take action without any time to think. Sin Hyuk tells him that the culprit is getting discharged from the hospital today, so it will be hard to catch him after this, and that is the second piece of motivation he'll give him, and he says that he can't let the chance go, as this is the only chance to catch a prospective serial killer. The detective is still just in disbelief, but Sin Hyuk hangs up, looking pretty confident that it will work, and he heads back. The detective sits there, staring at the phone, and somebody else enters, asking if he hasn't eaten yet, and asks if it's because he got scolded, but the detective asks if the DNA report of the woman's attempted robbery and murder case is out yet. The dude wonders why he's asking him, saying that he doesn't know, but it should be out sometime today. The detective decides that it's worth a shot. He says that they should tell the youngest to go to the National Forensic Service, and that he's going to come with him. The guy asks where, as they start walking off, and they head to Daein University Hospital. As Sin Hyuk's standing there at the entrance, this has some Detective Conan vibes. Sin Hyuk looks over, spotting the car pull up, as the detective pops out the whip. His underling tells him to wait for him, and as they walk past Sin Hyuk, he smiles. They head over to the nurses, and ask if there's a patient named Young-hoon in room 1407. The girl who gave Sin Hyuk her phone, asks how they knew this, and the detective says that he's come here after getting a report that he is the culprit of an attempted murder case. From 3 days ago, the girl is in disbelief, and tells him to wait a minute, as she runs off. Sin Hyuk then calls out to him, and he turns around. The detective is surprised to see that Sin Hyuk is the one handing him the cigarette, and wonders if he was the one who made the call. So, he asks him where he got this, and Sin Hyuk says some guy told him to give it to a police officer. Sin Hyuk asks who, and where, and Sin Hyuk points over into a random crowd of people. The detective asks if he remembers where the guy went, and Sin Hyuk says he doesn't. We then see Dr. Yang asking if they're really looking for Young-hoon, as he's the doctor in charge. In room 1407, Young-hoon is getting his clothes ready, as he's now being released. He zips up his jacket, and puts on his baseball cap. Then, he takes one more look at his bandaged finger, saying at that time he charged that woman, stabbing her in the abdomen, but his finger slipped, and he cut it as well. If he'd gone just a bit deeper, she'd surely be dead. Dr. Yang is escorting them, and the detective underling asks if it's really okay to arrest him without a warrant just from one report, as the DNA on the cigarette might not match. If the evidence doesn't come out within 48 hours, it's all over, and he knows that the team manager is on edge right now. Of course the detective knows this, because he was the one getting barked at earlier, about how he can't cover for him anymore. The detective says that he's going to go for it even if they don't get it, and he'll take full responsibility, so he just needs to follow him. They arrive at 1407, and when they enter the room, they're surprised to see that Young-hoon's not there. Dr. Yang says this is the bed of the patient, but doesn't know where he went. An old lady says that he got discharged, so he went out. Dr. Yang says that he didn't even go through the discharge process, though. The detectives realize that he must definitely be their guy if he's trying to escape, and run, saying they have to find him. We hear Young-hoon on the phone asking if they've arrived, and if they brought what he asked for, and that he's going to come out soon, and they can wait. He asks about their car details, and then he starts laughing while hanging up the phone. Sin-hyuk asks him if he's really trying to get discharged without paying the bill. Young-hoon slowly turns around, and is surprised that it's none other than Sin-hyuk asking him. He sighs out of relief, saying that it was just a vegetable, and asks what he's talking about, and why he thinks he didn't pay the bills, wondering what he's doing here in the first place. Sin-hyuk asks what he's talking about, as he was here looking for him. Young-hoon asks why, and Sin-hyuk says he wanted to ask him something. Then, he asks him how it felt when he stabbed that woman in her stomach. Young-hoon is just in joy that he got recognized, and says that he's not a normal kid, and looks into Sin-hyuk's eyes, saying that he must want to know how it feels, because he's the same. The vibration, being transmitted to his fingertips when it reaches the bone after going through flesh, is a feeling that is exhilarating. Sin-hyuk tells him to stop getting it wrong, and that if he really thinks he became someone new after stabbing another person, he stabbed her in the back, because he didn't have the confidence to face her directly. He also got hit by the car, because he panicked after stabbing her. As he was running away, after doing it, he ran straight into traffic, and got hit in the side. He picks up Sin-hyuk, and starts to insult him, but Sin-hyuk begins laughing at him. Young-hoon asks what he finds so funny, and raises his hand, saying that he should learn to respect adults, so it means he needs to be taught a lesson. Sin-hyuk sees someone approaching, as the detective grabs onto his hand. The detective looks at his hand, saying that he has a wound on the left index finger, and there's also one on the culprits as well. Young-hoon says that there's a misunderstanding here, as the kid was so cute. And the detective asks if he is Young-hoon, or not. Young-hoon asks if he knows him, and the detective says that this is the police, and as of now he's arresting him without a warrant. We finally learn that his name is Kang Se-jun. Young-hoon asks why him. And Se-jun says that he has the right to remain silent, or hire a lawyer. Young-hoon, realizing this is bad, screams while charging into Se-jun, knocking him onto the floor. He then starts to make a break for it, and he tells his partner to go get that dude. Sin-hyuk sees him running, and sticks his leg out, causing him to run straight into it. And Young-hoon now realizes that there's no hope for escape, as he faceplants straight onto the floor. He yells, saying to let him go, as he's a patient here, and there's no way it's okay for the police to do this. As Se-jun's leaving, he spots Sin-hyuk, telling his partner to get him to the car first, as he'll catch up soon, and leaves his partner to deal with him. Se-jun asks him if he remembers him, and Sin-hyuk says he does. Se-jun then asks if the guy who gave him the cigarette didn't say anything else, and we see Professor Kim approaching, asking what's going on, and saying that he's the doctor in charge of Sin-hyuk. Se-jun says that he's with the police, and got a report, and he seems to have met the person who reported it, so he was going to ask him a few questions. Professor Kim apologizes, saying that this kid was in a coma, and only woke up recently, so he's unstable. Sin-hyuk calls out to Professor Kim, who asks what. Sin-hyuk looks up at the doctor, telling him that he's okay now, and tells Se-jun that the guy told him that Young-hoon had a small amygdala, and low heart rate, and tendency of manipulative antisocial personality disorder. However, he's depressed. Se-jun asks about his depression, and Sin Hyuk says that those traits are an early-stage serial killer, the depression after their first murder, or attempted murder, after taking such a big risk when it's not as satisfying as they expected, and it makes them feel bad. The problem is, the next crime can't end as just an attempt, because they'll try to overcome the depression with it. If the next one is successful, they'll commit another, and before you know it, they'll end up becoming a serial killer in the end. Se-jun's just surprised, and Sin Hyuk continues, saying that if Young-hoon is left alone, another victim will definitely emerge. Se-jun is just surprised that he was told all of this by a random guy in passing. Sin Hyuk says that it's true. Professor Kim says that that's enough for today. He then gets the nurse to take him away, and Se-jun asks if the kid's parents have contacted the police. Professor Kim shakes his head, saying no, they are both dead. He then bows, telling him to take care, and Se-jun does the same, but he's still lost, asking if it's possible to remember those things by hearing it from a stranger, and repeat them accurately like that. It was more like his own words, and it's as if the kid was a profiler. A few days later, on the news, they announce how the culprit was found, and he was living in the same neighborhood as the victim. He stabbed her, and the police think that he might have committed more crimes like this, and are currently investigating his crimes targeting women. Sin Hyuk says the things that he learned in his coma are working in real life. Maybe that wasn't just a dream after all. Somebody then approaches him, as we see a little girl staring at him, and he realizes that she's probably going after all of the stuff in his bag, and he asks if she wants some. She says she does, and he says that she can actually have it all. She gets excited, and he said that he was thinking about what he should do with all those snacks the nurses kept giving him. She thanks him, saying that he's nice, and she bites into it. He spots the fact that her tooth is missing, and realizes something. It was just about the memory of another little girl. His head starts hurting, and he gets an image in his head of blood flying, as a woman is crying, falling to the floor, and mouthing something toward him. Somebody steps out of a car, and he spots the man laughing with a gold tooth. I guess remembered it because of the tooth, maybe. He wonders if it's memory, or delirium, and says that it might be a memory disorder. It's a common symptom that can appear after waking up from a coma, but if it was just delirium, he doesn't know if this heart-wrenching emotion could come along with it, and he just wonders why the hell his mother had to die. He then hears a grungy voice asking if he didn't know, and it's all because of him, as we see him looking in a mirror, and his reflection is that of a wolf crying. Sin Hyuk then snaps out of it, as the nurse calls out to him, asking if he's okay since he wasn't replying. He says it's nothing, but wonders what she wants. She says they have to go somewhere, and he asks where, and she tells him that Professor Kim wants to see him. He says yes, and when he glances back, looking in the mirror, he sees just his normal reflection once more. The nurse tells him to follow, and he does. As he's walking away, the nurses say that he's being discharged today, and it feels like it was just yesterday that he got into the ER, and he's already being discharged, and that she was shocked when she first saw him. There were more wounds caused by hitting than from the accident, and she could tell that he was being abused just from one look. The dad was driving drunk, and she doesn't understand what he was thinking, and if he was trying to die together, or something, but she's glad that his seatbelt was fastened at least. The other nurse asks if it means the dad wasn't, and she says that's the case, and also that his mother died 6 months before the accident. Tragedies have struck him one after the other, and she feels awful. The other nurse wonders what happens after his discharge, and if there's someone to take him. She says that she knows that nobody visited him. He's supposed to be sent to the orphanages according to the rules, but fortunately, Professor Kim plans to take him in as a foster son. She's surprised, and the other nurse asks if she really didn't know, as that's what the professor called him for, and that Professor Kim is single, and rich, so it's good for Sin Hyuk. The other girl says that he totally hit the jackpot, and that he just got the golden spoon. She is low-key jealous of him. As Sin Hyuk's being taken away, we finally learn Professor Kim's first name is Manhwa. The nurse knocks on the door, saying she's brought him, and Manhwa says to enter. Sin Hyuk wonders what's going on, and when the door opens, it takes us to the slums instead. We see a little girl feeding a cat, and she's so happy watching it eat, and even gives it some belly rubs. The cat tries to play with her, and she's having so much fun, she pulls out her phone, and begins recording it. We see somebody staring at her with some lecherous eyes, even though she's just a little girl. What a freak. She turns after hearing him approaching, and she says hello. We learn that her name is Bora, and the guy asks if she's feeding the cat again, saying she's such a good girl, and wondering where her mom and dad are. She says that her dad is at work, and her mom has gone to the supermarket. The guy smiles, asking if that's really the case. He says no one's passing by right now, and he can just finish it quickly, and he wonders if he should get it over with. This guy needs to be executed. The guy asks Bora if she said the cat's name was Cream. She says that it is, and that it's pretty, since it suits it. The guy says that he's so glad that Cream met her, and then mentions how a kitten came to his house, and it doesn't seem to have a mom, and it was shivering in the cold. And he wonders if she wants to take it, since he does not have cat food. Bora gets excited, asking if she really can, and the dude's heart starts racing, telling her that she shouldn't mention this to her mother. She says okay while laughing. She says that kittens are weak, so they have to warm it quickly. He says in that case they should hurry up, asking if kittens also eat kibble. She says they can mix it with water, and make it soft. They also love snacks. He says that she seems to be an expert, and his heart continues to race. At the hospital, inside of Minwoo's room, Sin-hyuk looks a little confused, as there's nothing but sweet drinks, and a lot of energy drinks in front of him. Minwoo says that he didn't know what he liked, asking him how he feels. Sin-hyuk says he feels good, and Minwoo says that's great, telling him that he's getting discharged today, asking what plans he has. Sin-hyuk doesn't say anything, and Minwoo says he has something important to tell him, as he has a lot of spare rooms in his house, and if it's okay with him, asking if he would like to live with him. If he becomes his son, he can help him with his dreams, school, job, and pretty much anything he wants. Sin-hyuk thinks about it, saying that is a great offer. If he's discharged like this, he won't get any legal rights as an orphan, and it'll be impossible for him to live on his own, or earn money for himself. He'd have to go to a place like an orphanage eventually, so accepting his offer would be the wise choice. However, he can't stop seeing the image of his father, bleeding profusely everywhere. As he's staring directly at him, his father asks if he really thinks he can sleep in peace after making him like this. Sin-hyuk stares at it, saying that this is a hallucination. Confusion of memories that can happen when the brain suddenly becomes active after waking up from a coma, but he doesn't know if it's just a hallucination, and maybe he doesn't remember what actually happened. Minwoo asks what he thinks about staying with him, but Sin-hyuk says he wants to ask him for something. Minwoo tells him to speak his mind, and Sin-hyuk asks if he could be his legal representative. This catches Minwoo off guard, asking what he means. Sin-hyuk explains that he's grateful for his suggestion, and he'd definitely live a happier life than before if he became his foster son, but he has to go back to his house, and settle some things, as there are some things he has not solved yet. Minwoo asks what he means, and Sin-hyuk says the death of his father, and his mother, as he doesn't believe they were just accidents. Minwoo is surprised, asking him what he means, saying that he can't leave a child alone. Sin-hyuk says he also wants to continue this relationship with him, but he can't just do that right now. If he stays with him before solving this problem, he thinks it'll end up causing him problems too. His father laughs, saying that he realizes what kind of person he is, a person who only harms others, and shouldn't even have come to this world. Sin-hyuk jolts up out of his chair, and bows, begging Minwoo. If he becomes his foster son, he'll have to go to school, and his actions will be limited, but he can't decline his offer, and get into society as a minor. A legal representative is the best choice to get both benefits. Minwoo thinks about it, wondering if this is something kids at this age usually say, and if he's not scared of living alone, but he doesn't know how to convince a kid who's talking so maturely. He calls Sin-hyuk's name out, saying that he doesn't think he can agree with it, sending him back to his house alone, that is, but he does think that he's different from usual kids, so he wants to give him a chance, as he agrees to be his legal representative. Sin-hyuk thanks him, but Minwoo says that he has a condition first. Sin-hyuk looks down as Minwoo hands him a phone, telling him to take it. If he contacts him every day, and tells him how he's doing, that will be the condition. He sighs, saying that he prepared it as a gift for his discharge, but he didn't expect it to be used like this. He then laughs, telling him to look at the backside, as there's a card attached to it. Minwoo says 300,000 won will be sent to it every month, and he can always call him if he needs more. Sin-hyuk looks back up at him, and Minwoo puts his hand on his shoulder, saying that he mentioned wanting to continue the relationship. It's the same for him, as he wants to cherish this, so he shouldn't think that he's alone, and he wants him to trust, and rely on him. If he's indebted to him, he'll contact him often, too. He laughs, saying that he can pay it back later if it's too much. Sin-hyuk thanks him, saying that he will pay it back. Minwoo asks if they can shake hands. Sin-hyuk raises his as they do it, and Minwoo says that it's warm. Sin-hyuk looks surprised, recalling Colonel Sanders saying the same thing about it being warm. As Minwoo tells him to eat well, and stay healthy, Sin-hyuk heads back home, and gets off at the bus stop. It drops him off, and we see him carrying a bunch of snacks in a bag. He looks down at it, and it turns out all the nurses gave it to him. He says that he's actually just craving some coffee. He then hears a woman calling out for her daughter, which is none other than Bora, and she looks frantic. She looks over, spotting Sin-hyuk, recognizing him, asking if he's seen Bora. Sin-hyuk asks who that is, and then starts to get a shock in his brain. Sin-hyuk gets a flashback to this woman putting a bowl of rice in front of him, saying that he must be hungry, and that he should eat before it gets cold, asking how a father could beat his own son, at least he shouldn't starve him, wondering if he's a father or a bitch, and she clicks her tongue, saying that he's nothing but skin and bones, and as he raises the bowl of rice to his mouth, Bora puts a piece of food on his spoon, telling him to eat this too. He thanks her, and she smiles at him. He then recalls who she's talking about, and he asks if she's looking for her right now. Sin-hyuk then asks when she left, and why she left. Her mother says around 4:30, and she went to go feed Cream. Sin-hyuk asks who Cream is, and she says it's a stray cat that she loves. Sin-hyuk asks where she feeds it, and if she goes there by herself. She says that she feeds it in front of the house, as the cat comes out of every day around the same time. Usually she'd come back in as soon as she called for her, but this time she went to the store. Sin-hyuk asks if she's not picking up her phone. She's a trendy kid, so she must be carrying her phone all the time to take photos of the cat, and share them with her friends. The mother says that her phone is turned off, and Sin-hyuk says something different from the usual routine happened. The mother then asks if he's seen her, saying that if not she needs to continue. Sin-hyuk tugs on her shirt, stopping her, and she wonders what it is. He says they need to report it to the police. She asks what he's talking about, and he says that usually Bora comes back right away when called, but it's been over an hour, she's still not back. Her phone is also turned off, and the mother says that's too much. Sin-hyuk says that this is a kidnapping. They don't have much time left, as there is a 75% chance of murder within 3 hours. Someone should fact check that statistic. The mother looks terrified, and Sin-hyuk says time is critical, and they should report it first, and then search for her. In a panic we see her shaking as she dials the number, and puts it up to her ear. She tells the police that her daughter hasn't come back after going out, and is screaming. They then ask how old her daughter is, and she tells them that she's 9 years old, and her name is Young Bora. The guy says she's probably just hanging out with her friends, asking if she's contacted them. She says that she just went out to feed the cat, and this has never happened before, plus her phone is turned off. The guy tells her to calm down, asking how about they wait a few more hours, as kids that age tend to ignore calls when hanging around. Sin-hyuk realizes this isn't going to anywhere, and sets down his bag as the mother is panicked. Sin-hyuk pulls out his phone, and starts to call somebody. Minwoo answers, saying that he called him right away, asking if he's arrived, and Sin-hyuk says that he has a favor to ask him. He thinks his friend has been kidnapped, and they call the police, but they think it's just a simple getaway, and are trying to avoid investigating. Minwoo seems surprised, and Sin-hyuk asks if he can help him. Since he's a professor around the age of 50, he should have connections with the upper class, including legal professionals, and senior executives. Minwoo says all right, wondering what the address is. Sin-hyuk then tells him everything, saying that it's very unlikely, but she might have met a friend, had gone to her house, and her phone's battery could have run out. However, based on her routine of feeding the cat at 4:30 every day, the possibility of her going out with a low battery is zero. Moreover, due to there being only a few CCTVs in this town, there are blind spots for crimes, so it's appropriate to seriously consider the possibility of a crime, and the place where it might have happened is directly in front of her house. Sin-hyuk runs off, saying he's gonna go to her house, and look for her, and he recalls more memories that he had with her. She called out to him one day, saying that he didn't come to school, and the teacher was worried. He tells her to leave him alone, and that's when she saw his face was all beaten. She then heard his stomach growling, and as he tried to run away out of embarrassment, she tugged on his hoodie, stopping him, saying that they should go to her house. Sin-hyuk asks why, and she says they can have dinner together. Sin-hyuk's a bit nervous, but really hopes that she's alright. As he's heading up the stairs, it takes us to a room with the window blacked out, and cat food, and treats on the floor, as well as her broken phone. And we see nothing but her legs. As the creep is panting, he hits a nasty smile. I hope she's okay. Sin-hyuk finally arrives at Bora's house. He says it's not easy to kidnap with a car on this road, and the culprit is someone who lives nearby, and can easily walk here. He glances around, seeing the food plate, and says that she must have followed the kidnapper willingly rather than being forced, since the bulls are still okay, and that they definitely know each other. and it is an acquaintance who they are looking for. There's a high probability that the kidnapper lives alone somewhere near her house, and he couldn't have kidnapped her carelessly if he was living with other people. He likely has no job, or does irregular day labor, and he's probably not attractive enough to adult women. He starts to think about who would fit every one of these categories, and something hits him. He recalls a bottle flying in, breaking over his head, and his father screams at him, asking how dare he come back this early, asking if he's going to find the dude who killed his mother or not, and he needs to look around the town like his life depends on it. Sin Hyuk runs out the house, saying he'll go look again, and his father asks how a useless brat like him was even born. As he's drinking his drink, he then realizes that it's the same bottle he used to ash his cigarettes in. Sin Hyuk feels the scar on his forehead ache, and touches it, saying that because of his father's abuse, he's come to know about everyone who lives in this town, including what they do, and who they are close with. He tells himself that he needs to recall it, and he starts listing all the criteria. An acquaintance, a single man, a day laborer, and somebody who's not attractive. He says there are two people who come to his mind when he thinks about them, and someone living close to her house is only one man named Joanti. Sin Hyuk starts running, saying that he's 35 years old, lives alone, mostly does labor, and enjoys drinking. He saw him drinking with his father a few times, and he arrives at his house, saying that this is where he lives. He tries to open the door, but realizes it's locked. He thinks about another way in. Inside the house again, the guy is panting evilly, and starts smiling before approaching Bora. There's then a loud banging sound, and he wonders what it is, and Sin Hyuk says that he needs to make him annoyed while he's enjoying his prey, and starts calling out to him. He says that he needs to make him lower his guard with a child's voice, and make him want to get rid of the person interrupting him. He continues banging on it, screaming, and the dude asks who the hell it is. Sin Hyuk smiles, saying it's working, and he tells him. Joanti says that he didn't see him for a while, and he should go back home, asking if he wants to get hit. Sin Hyuk says he needs to tell him something, and to come outside for a second. Joanti asks if he wants to die, telling him to stay right there. Sin Hyuk listens to the sounds of him opening the door quietly, and says that he's definitely hiding something inside the house. Joanti opens the door pissed, saying that he must really want to die, asking how dare he piss off an adult. Sin Hyuk says there's a high probability that he is the kidnapper, but he can't be certain, so he'll see his reaction to the question, and decide. He says he promised to play with Bora, asking if she is still in his house. Joanti asks what he's talking about, and thinks about it, and asks why he thinks she's here as she's not, and tells him to go away while he's still being nice. Sin Hyuk says that he saw her going into her house with him, asking if she already went home. Sin Hyuk tries to look past him, and he blocks his path, asking him what the hell he saw. Sin Hyuk says now he's certain. Joanti grabs onto his shirt, and asks him if he really saw it. Sin Hyuk looks over, causing him to look over, and he's surprised, as there's a cop car at the foot of the driveway, and cops start to exit. He starts laughing, and lets go of Sin Hyuk, saying this is awkward, as she told him not to tell anyone, as she's playing with a kitten right now. Sin Hyuk says his pupils are shifting to the right, saying nonverbal cue for making up shit that isn't true. He asks about the kitten, and he says it's hella cute, asking if he wants to see it. Sin Hyuk asks if he can. As soon as Sin Hyuk does, Joanti closes the door behind him, and locks it. Sin Hyuk looks at it, and says she's definitely going to be happy to see him. Back to the cops. The guy driving asks his superior if everything's alright, and he always said patrolling this town was a waste of time. He says that he thinks they're getting pressure from above, as they get a call from the main office. The dude asked why the main office all of a sudden, and he says that he doesn't know, he just does what they tell him to. He then tells him to stop here, and he says that they should look around a little bit, and go grab some coffee, and as they hop out, that's when Joanti spotted them, and got scared. And Sin Hyuk followed him in, because he says it's important to do as he says, as the priority is to check if Bora is okay, and of course we know he locked him in. But Sin Hyuk instantly spots how the windows are blocked with black plastic bags, and that there's something in there that shouldn't be seen, which means Bora is in there. Joanti asked what he's doing, telling him to go in, and Sin Hyuk asks if he knows this, telling him that motor nerves, and sensory nerves are all gathered in the temple, so if he gets a strong shock there, he might faint instantly. Joanti asked if he ate something weird, wondering what the hell he's talking about, and Sin Hyuk says normally he can't reach his temple because he's just a kid, but if he steps on the stairs like this, he's about the same exact height as him. Jo Auntie asked what he's talking about, and that's when Sin Hyuk looks back over again, and wondering what he's looking at, Sin Hyuk smacks him in the temple with his phone as hard as he can. Jo Auntie starts to lose his footing, and stumbles backwards, and Sin Hyuk says he knew it, it doesn't work with just one strike, and he even hit right at his temple. He then leaps up off the stairs, rearing his phone back, he comes in for another attack, hitting Jo Auntie straight on the temple once more, we hear a loud thud as he's flopped onto the floor. Sin Hyuk runs over to the gate, and unlocks it, and yells, telling the cops that there's someone fainted in here, and bangs on the door over and over. He continues yelling, and the cops wonder what's with all the noise, they see Sin Hyuk waving, wondering what he wants. Sin Hyuk then runs to the door, saying that he hopes to God that Bora is safe, and when he opens it, he's surprised. The cops say that he was definitely coming from over here, and they see that there really is someone who fainted, they start waking him up, saying that he can't sleep here. The guy asked if there's any response, and he says that he's still breathing, but he's not responding, and they should maybe call the paramedics, but Sin Hyuk tells them to please come inside. They look at each other, and his subordinate asks why he's looking at him, telling him to go. As he starts running inside, he slowly opens the door, before he looks surprised, and we see Sin Hyuk holding on to Bora. He asked if they came for the report, saying that this is the kid they mentioned, and this is the little girl who was kidnapped, as we see her bawling her eyes out, asking if they see the man outside, as he's the kidnapper. The guy starts getting some cold sweats, and Sin Hyuk says he's taped her hands and feet, and locked her up in here, there's still evidence, fingerprints, and DNA, so they should call the forensic team to conduct an analysis. She's still in great shock, and needs to rest, so he'll contact her mother, so he should call for backup now. His superior is outside with Jo Auntie, and he keeps tapping on his back, calling out to him, he then opens his eyes, freaking him out, and he asks if he can hear him. Sin Hyuk then yells out his name, and starts running over, kicking him in the back of the head, the cop tells him that he can't do that, and Sin Hyuk says he's not a human. The guy asks what he's talking about, and Sin Hyuk tells him that he's a kidnapper who's worse than a beast, and that this guy should be arrested on the spot as a flagrant offender. The ambulance arrives, and they start taking her away with police escorts behind, and the forensic team starts going in to get the evidence. Sin Hyuk watches as they take her away, and she's crying, her mother then spots her, and she spots her mother, as they have a nice wholesome embrace. Sin Hyuk is still in shock, and wants to know if it's a human, or a monster. Sin Hyuk doesn't smile, but we see his eyes are feeling a bit empathetic. At the police station, Jo Auntie is trying to say it's a misunderstanding, she says she wanted to see a cat, it's none other than Se-jun who slams his hand on the table, asking what the hell he's talking about, as his fingerprints are all over the box tape that tied her up, and her phone, so how dare he talk bullshit in front of him. He's got a witness statement, and there's no way for him to escape, so he needs to know everything. Jo Auntie says it's that little shit, and he hit his temple, and made him faint. Se-jun grabs him by his collar, saying that he treats him like a human, yet he dares lie to him. A kid half his size hit his temple, that doesn't even make sense, that he's nothing but a bum-ass kidnapper, and the only people worse than bugs are those who mess with children, wondering what he was going to do to her after taking her away. If he doesn't confess, he'll treat him like a bug. Se-jun tells him to answer if he understood, and his coworker says he's so energetic. Broccoli Head says that he volunteered for the attempted murder case last time, and now this kidnapping case, and the guy who's with him in the hospital asks if it's okay to change dramatically like this. Broccoli says the team leader is going to have a good reputation, so it's good either way, and they agree as long as it doesn't affect them negatively. At the hospital, Bora's mother thanks him, saying that things would have been worse if he wasn't there. Sin Hyuk says it's nothing, and it's because she stayed strong, and that she should just consider it a nightmare, and think about good things from now on. Bora thanks him, and her mother says that he's become so mature, his mother would be so proud if she was still alive. Sin Hyuk looks down, thinking about how it's probably right. She then asks how somebody named Hyejin is doing, as she hasn't seen her since his mom's accident. Sin Hyuk asks who that is, and then he starts to get a splitting headache. She says that Hyejin is his sister, just wanting to know how she's doing. Sin Hyuk starts to faint. She screams out to him, as we see him laying out on the floor. He's completely lost in his own mind, and this was the little girl who he recalled after seeing that one girl. Sin Hyuk finally heads home, saying that the last time he was around here was around a month ago, but in reality for him it's been much longer due to his coma. We see somebody watching from around the door, looking over suspiciously. The guy then texts somebody, saying that he confirmed the arrival of Sun drone at Haikilai, and he then gets a reply instantly, saying okay overload, continue monitoring until Vulture arrives at the dropping place. He closes his flip phone, and starts to look back again. Sin Hyuk enters, turning on the light switch. As he looks up at it, he then glares around the room, seeing how much of a mess this is, as it's a complete pigsty. He walks over a ramen packet, and continues that there's nothing but trash. And back when Bora's mother asked about Hyejin, and he had that splitting headache, he remembers that he had a sister, but he wonders how he could have forgotten it until now. Of course there could be some temporary memory loss, this has only been a few days since he woke up from the coma, but he wonders what this feeling is. The more he tries to think about Hyejin, he feels more terrified rather than him missing her, it's like a Pandora's box that cannot be opened. He then spots a book on a table, and picks it up, recalling how he got it. Quick side note, maybe he had killed his little sister, and that's why this series started off with that quote, just theory crafting, give me your thoughts. But Sin Hyuk goes to a bookstore with his mother, asking if he can really pick out anything he wants. She says of course, there must have been many books he wants to read, and he must be jealous that his friends are all reading already, and that since he's going to school soon, she'll buy him lots of books. She then tells him to go pick one out, and he runs over before thinking about it, and he finds one that catches his eye. He shows her, saying he wants to get this one. She asks if he's sure, as we see it's a science encyclopedia. She then asks why, and he says that somebody named Sholbam told him that an encyclopedia is like the combination of 100 books, that means he can achieve the effect of reading 100 books by reading this one, and save her money. She looks at him so proud, and he smiles at her. He says this is the first book his mother bought him, and when he flips through it, something falls out, he wonders what it is, and then realizes as he picks it up, it's his mom apologizing for leaving with only Hyejin, saying she'll come back, so wait for her. He wonders what happened that night for her to only leave a note like this. He then gets a slight glimpse of some erased text, saying that these are the traces of erased writings on the back, and it says run from your dad. A bottle then rolls over, landing on his foot, and when he glances over, his father asks why he did it, and why he killed him, while spilling blood everywhere. Sin Hyuk looks a little scared, and his father starts charging at him, asking how dare he kill him. Sin Hyuk just wonders what he's talking about, and then gets a flashback to him eating uncooked ramen, hiding inside of the utility room. His father then slammed the door open, asking why he's eating like a rat in here, and kicked him. Sin Hyuk hit the ground, and struggled to get back up, and he asked if that bitch Choi Seungmun hasn't come back yet. Sin Hyuk says that she hasn't, and all the lights were off, and the door was locked. He then throws the bottle, cutting his cheek from the broken glass, saying that he told her to keep an eye on him. He starts stomping him, calling him a little brat over and over. Eventually he gets gassed out, saying he can't do this anymore, and that he needs to get up, as they have somewhere to go. That was the night that Sin Hyuk tried telling him that he can't drive because he's drunk. His dad asked why he's lecturing him, telling him to shut up, and get in. Sin Hyuk notices his seatbelt, and then the wrapper of ramen in his hands. As his father is getting in the car, he debated one more time as he looked down at it. His father then opens the door, seeing Sin Hyuk sitting there, and goes to fasten his seatbelt, and of course it doesn't click because of the ramen packet. Sin Hyuk makes sure of this, as we see his eyes were just desperate for something to happen, as it didn't click in. That's when he drove off, and Sin Hyuk told him to drive slowly, but he tells him to shut up, and that he needs to go to the police station, and tell them that that asshole Choi Seungmun killed his mother, asking if he understands. Sin Hyuk then spots somebody in front of them, telling him to watch out, as there was a guy crossing the street, and that's when they swerved. When the car began crashing, his father's seatbelt became undone because of the packet, and they crashed straight into the ground. Sin Hyuk, reeling from the shock, glances over as he sees his father dead, head first into the dashboard, and he asks if he remembers him. Now Sin Hyuk understands, saying that he killed him, and his father says that he is nothing more than a murderer. The realization sets in, and Sin Hyuk screams no. The guy keeping watch outside wonders what's going on, and peers over, spotting Sin Hyuk running out of the gate. He then realizes he's supposed to be keeping an eye on him, and drops a cigarette, saying he just started smoking, beginning to chase after Sin Hyuk. They head downtown as Sin Hyuk is still making a sprint. He says that he can't believe that he murdered his father, and he hears that grungy voice once more. He immediately glances over, spotting the reflection of the wolf in the mirror. It causes him to fall backwards, scared, and he bumps into a guy, before apologizing. The guy says not to worry about it, and when Sin Hyuk looks back, he sees just his normal reflection once more, but then he spots something. He can tell this guy is tailing him. Deciding that he doesn't know what he wants, Sin Hyuk starts making a run for it. He texts somebody, saying the drone has escaped, and he wonders where the hell he's going. As soon as he turns the corner, the guy says it's a dead end, only to turn it, and see that Sin Hyuk's completely gone, leaving only his jacket behind. He wonders why he left his clothing, and picks it up, saying that was weird. Sin Hyuk then puts a glass shard to his throat, telling him to stay still. The guy is hesitant to move, but slowly starts reaching towards his pocket. And when he does, Sin Hyuk reminds him that this is a carotid artery. He'll die if this goes in even 3 centimeters, and he wouldn't try anything if he were him. He says he only has one life, and he should put his hands on the floor where he can see them. The guy does so, and Sin Hyuk asks why he's following him. He says he was just passing by, and Sin Hyuk starts to press it deeper. Sin Hyuk says when he lies, a hormone called catecholamine is released, making his blood pressure rise, and his heart beat faster. His carotid pulse just increased slightly, and if he cuts it a little bit, blood will be everywhere, so he better tell him the truth before he does that. The dude just wonders who the hell this kid is, saying that he might actually die here. The guy tells Sin Hyuk to let him go first, but Sin Hyuk starts pressing deeper, and that he got orders. Sin Hyuk asks what he means, and the guy says that someone designed and planned all of this. Sin Hyuk asks what he's talking about, and he says to take him somewhere, and kill him in a car accident. Sin Hyuk asks why, and the dude says that it's because it makes them money. Sin Hyuk wonders if it's like an insurance fraud, and he says he's not sure, he just heard that it pays a lot. Even if they're young, or poor, they can use everything like a cow. Sin Hyuk says he's talking as if he knows him, and he says of course he does, as he's known his whole family for a long time. Sin Hyuk asks if he's the one who killed his mom, and the guy says it's making him upset that he even thought that. Sin Hyuk then asks if he did something to his father, and the guy says bingo, his father started it all. That means that his dad was directly involved with his mother's death, but he can't be the person who planned all of this, the person who designed this, and dragged his father in must be someone else, and he wants to know who the mastermind is. The guy says he doesn't know, they just give him orders, and he does what they tell him to, as he's never met them. Sin Hyuk can tell he's not lying, telling him to take out his phone, and leave it on the floor. The guy, realizing this is a chance, tells him to wait, as his phone is in his pocket. As he goes to reach for it, he instead grabs onto something else, and swings, telling Sin Hyuk to die. We see blood on his shirt, but not on the area of his shirt that got cut. The guy laughs, saying that he's dead now, but we see it was his throat that got slit, as he begins bleeding out. He clenches his throat, getting it to stop, and Sin Hyuk says it was shallow, about 1 centimeter deep, but he might live if he goes to the emergency room, and he better hurry, and thanks him for the phone, as he heads out. The guy, still holding onto his throat, begins to panic. Sin Hyuk peers around the corner of the alley, saying that he doesn't see any more people like him, and he looks through his flip phone. He says that it has a password, but luckily he's by a PC cafe, saying that he can crack it if he has a computer. However, because their location is signal, or fragmented, it's hard to trace the sender. That means even the contacts might not know each other, and they seem to be organized as fragmented cells, and the mastermind seems to be the central coordinator who manages all the fragmented cells. He plugs the phone directly into the PC, and boots it up, and starts going straight hacker mode. He unlocks it, and we see something about Overlord 9 being mentioned. There's no recent calls, and Sin Hyuk says they must have been using messages. He's then surprised to see confirmations about him in the hospital, something called the mineral collection date, and the mineral collection was none other than him, and they were constantly asking him to reply, wondering why there was no response. Sin Hyuk starts piecing it together, saying that if he thinks of it similar to an insurance fraud, just as the guy mentioned, drone is his family, Hikili his house, mineral is money, and vulture is a car that'll cause the accident, and dropping place is where the accident will take place. It'll be difficult to make a child sign up for insurance, so their plan might be getting compensation through the car's driver's insurance, They can get large amounts of compensation by calculating the lost income if the victims are young. Lost income is the future income the victims could have earned if they were normally. But what pisses him off the most is the mastermind behind all of this is killing people and destroying families, as if he's playing a game. He wonders why he would even do this, but since they came after him, they must have gone after his sister as well, and he wants to kill the person behind this right now, but confirming his sister's safety is his priority, but he doesn't know how to go about it. He says there's a 50% chance, and it's stupid, but he has no other way. As he starts to text, he sends it through, and we see a guy's phone ring. He then looks down, picking it up, wondering what it is, and it says daughter drone's location confirmed. The guy is confused, saying that he ignored all of his messages, and now sends this nonsense. The guy replies back, and Sin Hyok's surprised, and he says that she was hidden by her mom a long time ago, and they've been unable to find her, asking what he was talking about. Sin Hyok sighs out of relief, saying thank God, but then notices another text, as the guy asks what happened to Sun Drone. Sin Hyok then replies, and the guy looks down at his phone, shocked to see Sin Hyok asking him blatantly if he's the mastermind. The guy just wonders what he's talking about. We see a kid playing a game. He takes off his headset, and asks the guy what happened, calling him Mr. CEO, and he calls the kid Aki. Aki asks him what's wrong. The guy says it's because this overlord bastard is sending him weird messages. Aki asks him to show him, and the CEO says sure, as he hands him the phone. Aki begins reading it, and tells the CEO it's a shame, but it seems as if he has been fooled. The sender of these messages is not Overlord. The CEO then asks who it could be, and Aki says it must be Sun Drone. CEO says he's only 9 years old, though, and then realizes he's probably right, as they were asking about daughter drone's location. There is no mention of daughter drone whatsoever in the messages exchanged before this. Despite that, the fact that he suddenly asked about her location means that he wanted to confirm whether they've worked on her or not. This shows how desperate he is, and if it's not someone from her family, then this behavior makes no sense. Since her only family left now is her older brother, he threw the bait personally, and the CEO bit hard. As a result, he ended up getting a gift. The CEO wonders how he got his hands on Overlord's phone, and says that it must have been because he picked it up when he lost it. Aki tells him that he is wrong, as the boy sent the messages in the language that they use. That means he threatened Overlord to obtain information, and took his phone. CEO says that he's only a 9-year-old boy. Aki asks if he has already forgotten what he did 3 years ago, as he was also 9 years old at that time. The CEO realizes that he's right, and we get a flashback to him running away when he had longer hair. He was obviously running for something, and that's when Aki peered around the corner, and afraid to bump into him, the guy stopped, and asked why suddenly appearing out of nowhere, saying he scared him. Aki then tells him this way is a dead end, and as the CEO ran by him, he asks if he wants to live. The CEO turns, and Aki says that he can help him. The CEO asks what the hell he's saying that he should just go to his mother, or father, and instead of staying here, he might end up getting injured. Aki says that his parents are both already dead. The CEO is surprised, and Aki says that if he helps him, he wants to know if he will do what he asks. The CEO says that it depends on what it is, and Aki says that some people need to be killed, as it was the people who killed his parents. The CEO looks very taken aback, and finally we see a whole group of thugs turn the corner, saying they found him. The CEO is in a panic, but Aki tells him to make his choice. The CEO looks back down, and Aki says that he needs to decide whether he wants to live, or die. Aki persuades him that day, and makes him snap out of it. Aki says that now that they've received a message from him, he should leave a reply. As he starts smiling, the CEO says that he has not seen that in a while, that expression of him having so much fun. Sin Hyok then gets the notification, and is surprised to see that they say it's nice to meet him. Sin Hyok says this is the mastermind, and it's what he wanted. Aki tells him they have not found the daughter yet, since they have been constantly throwing baits. It's only a matter of time for her to fall for it. Sin Hyok says he's intentionally provoking him, because they can find her any time. If he wants to stop them, he needs to try. So they're trying to force him to find Hyejin before them, but that's something that he must actually do. He wonders if maybe his mother left a clue about where she hid her, saying that he should go home and search, but that's too dangerous, as it could be a trap, and the uncertainty is too big. Moreover, if he could find Hyejin, they're always going to be in danger as long as they exist. In that case, he needs to destroy their organization, and that would be the best way to protect her. Aki gets a notification, and Sin Hyuk says that since he got rid of one of his members, there should be one slot open. Aki then looks amused, as Sin Hyuk asks if he can join, and Aki laughs, saying, "Would you look at that?" He wonders if maybe Sin Hyuk suffered a serious head injury when he was in the hospital. The CEO says he doesn't know, but he did hear that he was in a coma, and just recently woke up, and since he survived, they can use him as a cash cow, but wonders why he's asking. Aki is just more curious about if a person can subtly change this much, as if he has been reincarnated, just like him before when his parents died. At the PC cafe, Sin Hyuk just waits until he gets another notification, and he picks it up, as Aki says he wants to meet, telling him that the organization is not a place that can easily be joined, and an interview is required. Sin Hyuk replies instantly, asking about the location and time. Aki says 2 p.m. tomorrow at the fountain in front of the Murray department store plaza. Sin Hyuk closes the phone, saying the fact he purposely chose a meeting place with a lot of people means that he is wary of him. He's scrupulous and calculating enough to lead an organization through insurance fraud. What a guy like that wants to evade the most are things that create variables, so he needs to use the conditions he has to create them. The only card he has at his hands right now is one thing. He looks down at the phone, picking it up, and makes a call. We don't get to see who it is, but back to the CEO. Aki hands him back his phone, saying that he told him where to meet him. The CEO asks why it needs to be a crowded place, saying it would be easier to work in quiet. Aki says that he only plays games that he is confident in winning, though the probability of this happening is small. Since the police, or the special investigation unit could be involved, it's best for him to minimize variables as much as possible. The CEO asks if he's saying that a 9-year-old would try to set a trap for him. Aki says the chances are pretty low, asking if they still have that mole they planted in the police department. The CEO says yes, and Aki says they need to contact him immediately, and find out if there's an ongoing investigation related to insurance fraud. The CEO says okay, and starts to call his informant, but Aki's laughing to himself, saying that he can't wait for tomorrow. We then hear a phone ringing, as it's none other than Se-jun who picks up, but this is probably from Sin Hyuk's call, rather than the CEO's. We'll find out next time. If you've watched till the end, comment, claw, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.